Reflections on the Good News of Jesus Christ for the 30th Sunday of Ordinary Time from the Gospel according to Luke. Jesus addressed this parable to those who were convinced of their own righteousness and despised everyone else. Two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee, and the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself. O God, I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I pay tithes on my whole income. But the tax collector stood off at a distance and would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast and prayed, O God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. The good news of the Lord. A newborn child is the center of the world, his or her majesty the baby, focusing the life of the entire family. And that's as it should be. After all, the infant's health, safety, and very life are at stake. And so the child's every need and want are provided for. So helpless, so fragile, the infant is doted upon, fussed over, and fretted about by his or her anxious parents. Every aspect of the family's life revolves around the child's needs. A baby's parents respond immediately to their child's tears. To them, the sound of their baby's laughter is the most beautiful sound in the world. Love, given and received. But as a child develops and grows, and is able to do more and more for himself or herself, the child begins to understand that he or she is not the center of the world after all, that the world is indeed much bigger than the child's needs and wants. In time, the child is expected to take responsibility for his or her own actions and learn to live with the consequences of those decisions. As the years pass and the child enters adulthood, the young adult begins to take on responsibility for the needs and wants of others. The more mature he or she becomes, the more removed the child is from being the center of things. The clearer it becomes to the young adult that the needs and dreams of others are just as important as his or hers, especially with the discovery of that special other who will become one's soul mate in marriage. The transformation is complete when the now adult child becomes the parent of a newborn baby, and a new child becomes the center of the world. That analogy may help us to see more clearly the point Jesus is making in this parable. He gives us caricatures of a Pharisee and a tax collector. The Pharisee, and he clearly believes he has evidence to prove it, is the good guy. He carefully keeps the law of the Jews and the commandments of God. He faithfully observes the obligations of a good Jew. He prays, he fasts, and he gives alms. And yet, God is not happy with him. Why? Because he is a totally self-centered person. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, like this tax collector. What he really is saying is, God, you should be deeply grateful that you have someone like me, and there are not many of us, someone who is so faithful in following your commands. When he prays, fasts, or gives alms, it is not because he loves God or the poor or wants to serve God. It is because he loves himself. He is the center of his whole existence. Even God is on the fringe. We might say that this Pharisee is acting like a child, and a spoiled one at that. He thinks that God should be so happy to have such a rare example like him, especially when so many are like the tax collector. Jesus criticizes the Pharisee for not being aware that all these good things he claims to do have God at their source. Without God, he could do nothing. He would be nothing. What is more, such a person's life is spent in comparison. Who is better? Who is worse? Who is first? Or today, such a person might ask, who is richer? Who has more power? Who's better looking? Who is more important? And those who do not measure up to their canons of success are deemed unworthy. It was to such people, as Jesus said, who believed in their own self-righteousness while holding everyone else in contempt, that he spoke this parable. On the other hand, the tax collector is certainly a sinner. He surely does not observe the Jewish law. If he is like the typical tax collector of his time, he's a swindler and an extortionist. As an employee of the Roman government, he collects tax money from his own oppressed people and hands the required amount over to the hated Romans, while pocketing whatever he could gather over and above that amount for himself. He really is a sinner. He really behaves abominably before God and neighbor. And God loves him. For Jesus says that when the tax collector left the temple, he did so as a friend of God, while the Pharisee was rejected. How can this be? Is this God's justice? The reason is that although the tax collector is undoubtedly a sinner, he admits his sin. He knows that by himself he cannot do anything, that he cannot change unless God comes to his help, which is why he implores, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. God will come immediately to the help of a sinner who, in humility and truth, recognizes his or her sin. On the other hand, how can God come to help anyone who thinks he or she can take care of themselves? The great spiritual writer Thomas Merton wrote that, quote, humility is absolutely necessary if one is to avoid acting like a baby all one's life. To grow up, in fact, means to become humble, to throw away the illusion that I am the center of everything and that other people exist to provide me with comfort and pleasure. The gospel of Jesus challenges us to embrace the humble, God-centered faith of the tax collector and not the childish, self-centered claims of the Pharisee. We manifest our love for God not through self-congratulatory rituals of piety, but through heartfelt and sincere love and care for our family and friends, but also for the poor, the needy, the defenseless, the alienated, and the rejected, seeing in each one of them the face of Christ. True humility is acknowledging that every good quality you have is a sign of God's love for you and is given to you so that you can share it with others in love and rejoice with them when they have it too. True humility is a sign of being a grown-up. Thanks very much for listening. Please feel free to share this with others if you like. And if you would like to subscribe and receive this kind of a gospel reflection every weekend, please go to our website, which is www.justadisciple.com. Once again, www.justadisciple.com. Thanks again.